For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is Cashing Out on VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is Cashing Out right here on VSiN, the sports betting network. Greg Hoops Peterson holding it down for Joe Serralo tonight as we've got ourselves 3 tremendous hours. We've got ourselves some amazing playoff action going down in both the NBA and NHL. We've got ourselves a full slate of baseball as well. Hopefully, you don't get rained out in Minnesota like we've gotten the last 2 nights. So we're going to be looking at that. We're going to be deciphering what we all got here on Tuesday, turning it forward to Wednesday, and so much more as we've got a trio of great guests. It's going to be starting in 30 minutes with Jason Gregor. He does great work over at Sports 1440. That's out there in Edmonton, and we're going to be chatting with them about what we're going to be seeing in the Western Conference Finals of the NHL and reacting to the fact that we saw in game number 1 the Florida Panthers get the job done over the Hurricanes. So we're going to be chatting about that and so much more. Looking at the NHL playoffs, hour number 2 going to be a little bit more based around the NBA playoffs as Iggy Gilbert, he does great work over at fantasyalarm.com. He does a tremendous job with their NBA work. Going to be joining me. We're going to be talking about what we've seen here in the Western Conference Finals, which if you're watching right now, it is turning into a little bit of blowout city right now. The Timberwolves down 15 points with 4 minutes and change remaining. So the OKC Thunder, barring something very, very dramatic, they're going to be able to take game 1 in this one. So we're going to be chatting about that. We'll turn it forward to what we're going to be seeing in game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals and so much more. So we have a lot of fun there. And then one of our good friends, Scott Spreitzer, he's a professional sports bettor over at DocSports.com, going to be joining me in hour number 3. We can go a little bit of everywhere with him, a little bit of NBA, NHL, and so much more. So good, clean family fun to be had here over the next 3 hours. And right now, the big thing that is going down, we are getting the wrap up here of Thunder versus Timberwolves. Right now, Thunder up 99-84, and this has just been complete and utter domination here in the second half by the Thunder. This was very tight going into the end of the first half, and then it just felt like 5 minutes remaining in the third quarter. That's when the levees really broke for the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have just shot too many threes. Like we talked about this with the Boston Celtics a little bit earlier in the postseason, but the Timberwolves are 15 of 48 from 3-point range tonight, and just haven't been able to get a ton generated there. Now, Anthony Edwards has still been able to give the team 18 points, but he's got a plus-minus of -16, so that's been a little bit rough for him, and he's really one of the main guys that have been able to get it going, as Dante DiVincenzo off the bench, 3 of 12 from 3, and it's going to be a big key for the Timberwolves team. What are they going to be able to get off their bench moving forward? Because the bench pieces have just not been able to shoot it well from 3-point range, and additionally for the OKC Thunder. Even though if you take a look at offensive rebounds, they're losing that battle. They've done a nice job of just being able to get their offense going down low. It has been a very big game from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, is up to 31 points right now, but the guy that really goes under the radar, in my opinion, for the Thunder team, Jalen Williams, just time and time again, being able to get the job done. He's been able to give you 17 points, 5 boards, and more importantly, 5 steals in this game, as well as the turnovers have been a big reason why the Thunder have been able to get this lead, as we have seen 15 in total from the Minnesota Timberwolves. So we shall see how this one is going to be shaking out with regards to the total itself, because the pregame total was 217.5. That's certainly going to be going under. And then if you were looking at the spread, the Thunder in a lot of places closed at a -7. So still a little bit of question mark there. You've got 3 minutes and change remaining. So we shall see if we get a little bit of a run here from the Minnesota Timberwolves. But right now looking like that's not going to be happening, as the Thunder now up 104-86, 3 minutes remaining. So yeah, if you got the Minnesota Timberwolves +7, you're going to need a miracle in order to be able to get there. And the Thunder, they're going to be able to take control of this series, and going to be interesting to see if we get any sort of an adjustment in terms of game number 2, because a lot of times you do see the zigzag theory coming into play here, and I would not doubt it if you perhaps, because this game closed at a -7, you perhaps see the OKC Thunder, after what we've seen here tonight, go up to like a -7.5, -8 or so, perhaps a little bit of adjustment, and that closing total was actually closer about a 219. So not thinking we're going to be closing at a 219, considering the opener was a 213.5, and certainly this has been a rough go of it for the Timberwolves, to say the least. But in terms of what we saw on the NHL side of things as well. You had a game one that went down there, and in terms of that game one, you did see some pretty good domination out there on that front as well, as it was a 5-2 final. Florida, they go on the road, they take it to the Carolina Hurricanes, who just have had really good home and road splits in general. And if you're looking at that opener for game number 2 of this series, that is going to be going down on Thursday. Right now, you've got the Hurricanes, who close in that neighborhood about minus 125 on the money line. Right now, they're opening up more around about a minus 120 or so, and that's probably one, and I'm not necessarily the biggest NHL bettor in the world, but I'd be looking at Carolina to be able to bounce back a little bit. They have some very dramatic home and road splits, so we're going to be seeing what happens on that front as it is cashing out with myself, Greg Peterson, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, and we just have to keep you abreast as to what's happening in Major League Baseball as well, as we've got a lot of night games. We had 0 day games once again, which once again, ludicrous on that, but you know what? We've got ourselves a few games that are going to be wrapping up, including a few games that got a little bit of late start. We saw that with the White Sox and the Seattle Mariners, as that game was involved in a little bit of a rain delay. So if you're seeing, oh, wow, up there in Chicago, it's 10 o'clock p.m. Central Time, and we still got the 7th inning in White Sox versus the Seattle Mariners. That's why 1-0 with Adrian, don't call him Doogie Howser, getting the surprise start and got signed like hours before the game and actually went out there, gave a relatively solid effort. And we always have to rag on these guys, because sometimes when it comes to sports betting, it's not necessarily the team that you want to bet on that is the, shall we say, most profitable. It's a team that you want to fade. And one thing that I have really been able to make a lot of money on this year, betting unders in Colorado Rockies games and betting on the team not named the Colorado Rockies. And that looks like that's going to be the case once again. As for the Colorado Rockies, I mean, for as sad and miserable as they have been straight up on the money line, they've been even more sad and miserable on the run line. All but 5 of their losses this year, and they've had 39 of them, have come by multiple runs, and right now they are getting pasted 7-2 by the Philadelphia Phillies. At this point, I don't think it's the world's worst look to be laying 2.5 runs, to be laying 3.5 runs. This Colorado Rockies team is just that bad at this point. And the Colorado Rockies, the fact that they keep trotting out there Antonio Senzatello, he was somehow, some way able to fill 6 innings in this one, gave up 10 hits, only 4 runs, was probably lucky to only give up 4 runs in this one. But yeah, that's been a little bit less than tremendous. And Jesus Luzardo, pretty tremendous in this one. 10 strikeouts, he was able to hurl 6 innings, he gives up 1 run. And for this Rockies team, even at elevation, even at Coors Field, this is not necessarily the world's greatest offense. So that's been very, very rough, to say the least, for them. And then some of the other late night action, you're starting to see a little bit of explosion out there in Sacramento. I was about to say Oakland, but the A's are currently up by kind of 4-1 in the bottom of the 4th inning. And you saw that game unfortunately go under yesterday. I remember you had like 7 runs of the first 5 innings, and then the game dies into oblivion. We'll see what happens here, but we've gotten a combined 4 runs here in the 4th inning, as you've got Shea Langoliers, Shea Banks for his 9th home run season, and Nick Kurtz has one deep off of Kyle Hendricks. And that's another guy that you want to be fading. And that's really, in my opinion, been the theme of this baseball season thus far. The teams / the just units in general that you want to fade. And by units, I mean there are some really, really bad bullpens right now. The Los Angeles Angels rocking north of a 6 ERA. The Washington Nationals have been less than savory, though. If you had the under tonight, you were able to get there 7 runs in the first 2 innings between the Atlanta Braves and the Washington Nationals, yet somehow, some way, still stays under 8.5 runs. If you had the over in that one, I really do feel for you, but certainly that was a powerful one, to say the least, just like this is going to be a powerful win for the OKC Thunder. And sometimes I try to be able to find a little bit of value with regards to live totals, just really not much to be had here. Timberwolves are right now down 106-86. You've got about $1.47 remaining. I mean, if you were looking to live bet anything, I would try to live bet an under now that you've got it up to 200.5. 106-88 with $1.45 remaining, but this is something that you just don't want to mess with, and that'll just sometimes happen with regards to the NBA, because I am much more of a live bettor when it comes to the NBA. I just feel like you get better numbers in general, and hey, if you did that with regards to the OKC Thunder, you were able to get a really good number throughout the first half into the middle part of the second half. Obviously, if you waited until, like, we're going to call it the back half of the third quarter, at that point you just had a little bit of a point of no return. But be able to find a little bit of value on that number, because oftentimes you do have some volatility, and if things are relatively close to start out with regards to that underdog, you're able to find that favorite at a little bit of better number, much like we saw here tonight. And this game has just been a very clear under from the start. So we're going to see if the OKC Thunder are able to add just a few more points to the board, as they're going to be heading to the free throw line with about $1.26 remaining. But this game is as good as salted away, and now it becomes, what do the OKC Thunder do to be able to try to bounce back in game number 2? And we've seen the historical trends. These teams that they get pushed to a game 7 oftentimes have had a little bit of a lack of success here in game number 1. Certainly for the OKC Thunder, they were able to do a very solid job coming out and being able to leave no doubt whatsoever. But I just still go back to this Minnesota Timberwolves team. The fact that you had Dante DiVincenzo, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, both come in off the bench. They went a combined 5 of 21 from three-point range. You need to get a little bit more out of them, to say the least. So we shall see what is going to be happening there. But yeah, this has been a little bit of a rough go of it for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And for the OKC Thunder, again, credit where it is due to this team, and the fact that they were able to take full advantage. Really didn't get a ton off the bench. Alex Caruso has had some nice moments. Obviously, Caruso, he's able to do a little bit of everything for you. And Kassan Walls, what I do like from him is the way that he's able to facilitate. And he's actually had a plus-minus of a plus 21. Recognize that it's not an end-all, be-all, but I mean, this guy has come out and has been absolutely tremendous for the team. He's a really good defender. He's been able to give you 7 assists. So do like what he's bringing to the table, and have to like in general what you're able to get out of the OKC Thunder tonight, as we'll see what that final score is going to be in a minute. It's currently 101-88. And yeah, for the Minnesota Timberwolves, you do have to figure that this team is going to need to go back to the drawing board a little bit. And I think the really big key with this as well, you need to find a little bit more out of Rudy Gobert as well. Rudy Gobert, 21 minutes, 2 points. I recognize that this might not be the world's greatest matchup for him, but he needs to be a little bit more effective than what he was. Jaden McDaniels fouled out of this game, and he wasn't able to give you a whole ton either. So clearly a lot of issues for this Minnesota Timberwolves team, as looks like this one is going to be going final relatively soon. That's a brick, and that should mean that we're probably going to be wrapping up 114-88, as the OKC Thunder going to be able to take that one. They get the cover, they get the win, and this is going to be a game that stays under the total. And now we have to take a little bit more of a look as to what we're getting in Major League Baseball tonight, because we do have ourselves quite a few games in action, including the teams out there from Los Angeles. The Angels and the Dodgers are both currently doing battle. The Dodgers, they just got their first run up on the board against the Arizona Diamondbacks. So how about if we take a look at some late night Tuesday baseball action right here on the flip side on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Out here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We're back here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Greg Peterson holding it down tonight for Joe Sorrell, and just saw the game go final. OKC 114-88 over the Minnesota Timberwolves. And what was striking about this game for OKC, they had 44 points in the first half, about a 70 piece in the second half, and in that second half, 8 of 13 from three-point range, as they win this one going away. They cover the spread. The total stays under. Now we shall see what is going to be the opener in game number 2. We're awaiting that in quite a few bucks, and we should be able to get that within the next few minutes. So we've got a lot of fun coming up there, but now we've got to turn our attention to what we've got in terms of the late night action, and that's all out there on the diamond right now, as we've got ourselves a quartet of different games. Well, we're going to be having, I believe, 4 games in the next few minutes, as the Philadelphia Phillies are currently up 7-3 on the Colorado Rockies. There is currently no outs in the ninth inning, and the Rockies have a man on first, but Let me tell you right now, if you have faith in the Rockies coming back, you are probably the only person that has faith in the Rockies coming back, because they're 8-39 thus far this season, and they're going to be out 8-40 this season. And unless if they have a nice comeback, all but 5 losses this year by multiple runs. So if you've been fading the Colorado Rockies, you've been making a whole heck of a lot of money, and now it's starting to be taxed where you're not able to take a run and a half very comfortably anymore. Like even tonight, that run line, you were finding that well north of a -180, and there's a very, very good reason why this team is being taxed the way that they are. I can't remember ever seeing a team worse in Major League Baseball in my life. As a matter of fact, there were a lot of places where if you laid 2.5 runs, you were still playing between -120 to -125, and that's looking like that's going to cash relatively easily. So that's where we're at right now with the Colorado Rockies. And if you're looking at a team that's a little bit more respectable as an underdog, that'd be the Arizona Diamondbacks, currently trailing by kind of 1-0 against the LA Dodgers. That's in the top of the 5th inning, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto is dealing once again, and for Yamamoto had 1 or 2 relatively rough starts, but overall he's been very good thus far this season. And a lot of places they do take off the board the awards markets and the awards derivatives when it comes to when you get these games all started. But that's a guy that if you're looking for an awards prop, personally I have not bet this one, but it's one that I've been looking into. Him to be able to win the Cy Young, I honestly don't think is necessarily the world's worst look. If you're looking on the National League side of things, he is towards the top of there. Paul Skeens is right now your favorite at +210, and Yamamoto is the number 3 shot between Zach Wheeler at +$4. But he's been able to put together a relatively nice year. Jesus Luzardo, who just saw tonight for the Philadelphia Phillies, he was able to punch out 10 out there at Coors. He's currently at 20-1 as well. So there's a few intriguing options that I just don't know if Paul Skeens is going to be able to get that award at +210. I think that's just gone a little bit too short in general, because big fear that I've got with the Pittsburgh Pirates is that they just get so far out of the race that perhaps in the final month of the season they shut them down or something like that, because they just have absolutely nothing going for them whatsoever. And then if you're looking on the American League side of things, no shock here, Drake Skubal right now your favorite at +$2, but man, that is going to be going on the bump on Wednesday. Hunter Brown +425. Think that he's worth taking a little bit of note of. And Max Fried, him at 5-1 with that sub-150 ERA. They have all been rock solid as well. But we'll be deciphering that a little bit later on. And we have to decipher what we're getting in terms of these games tonight, as I've been noting this very much throughout the season. The totals out there in Sacramento, how harebrained and crazy they have been. Currently, this is a 4-1 game. You're in the top of the 5th inning right now with a live total of 11.5 for Kyle Hendricks. He's already given up a pair of homers in this one, so things have been a little bit less than tremendous for them. But the LA Angels looking to be able to strike here on Gunnar Hoglund, who he's been relatively solid in his first few starts for the Sacramento A's. Was about to call them the Oakland A's, but 4-1 currently in the lead. You've currently got that game in the 5th inning, and then this has been something intriguing as well. Something that I've been noting is that the Kansas City Royals have been one of your top under teams in all of baseball, and I find it to be very shocking what they've been able to do thus far this season, because when you think about the Kansas City Royals, typically, unless you're looking at that team that won the World Series, I believe, in 2016, typically not due to their pitching. It's been a team that has been very rough over the last few years in general. In terms of that pitching, they have been much better thus far this season. Currently up 3-1 on the San Francisco Giants. That's in the bottom of the 5th inning. Michael Lorenzen, not necessarily the guy that you want to be backing too much for the Kansas City Royals, but the way that that bullpen has been operating, the way that you've had guys like Cole Reagans, the company, be able to give you good starts, Chris with the K. Bubich, who got the job done yesterday. These guys have all been very solid for this unit, so and that has been one of the best stories in all of baseball. And I have to take a look at this as well, because we've got ourselves a bases loaded situation in the game between the White Sox and the Seattle Mariners. White Sox, by the way, the fact that they are 14-34 this season and not being talked about very much, because there's another team, the Colorado Rockies, are even worse. That tells you exactly where things are at for them, but they currently have loaded up the bases against the Seattle Mariners. We'll see if they're going to be able to get out of this jam, and they indeed do, but 1-0 is the score in that one. And Seattle's been another one of those teams that have been surprising, even though they have not been able to put a lot of runs up on the board. It's a team that's averaging right around about 5.5 runs per game away from home, and has been one of your most formidable offenses in all of baseball. And sometimes you just don't get the runs when you need them, like them loading up the bases in the 8th inning, not being able to get the job done there. Who always does get the job done, though, that'd be Profit X, because Profit X, they know that the NBA playoffs are heating up. They know that you've got a lot of MLB action as well, and they are a peer-to-peer sports exchange that's available in 40-plus states, and they are available to help you make sports picks against other fans rather than the books, so that way you're able to get the best odds typically by 10 to 20%. 10%, and you can even request your own odds over at ProfitX. Download ProfitX today with that promo code of VSIN, that is VSIN, and you're able to get up to $200 in ProfitX cash over your first month. That's the promo code VSIN, as it is cashing out with myself, Greg Peterson, right here on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network. And Rockies are looking to try to cover that -2.5 run line, and they did cash the over for you as well. 7-4 currently in the ninth inning there, so you're able to get home another one of these. And I do think that's going to be interesting to take a look at Rockies totals moving forward, because they have been playing north of 60% of their games to the under thus far this season because their offense is so bad. But it just becomes really tough to be able to play these Rockies totals as well, because not only do you have that bad offense, but that entire pitching staff is absolutely terrible. The fact that they are sending Antonio Senzatella to the mound right now is baseball malpractice. These other guys are getting these starts. Like, we are going to be seeing Mr. Palmquist get his second career start here on Wednesday when we break down that game. Just been very gross, very grody with them, to say the least. So we're going to be diving in on that. But man, it's just any way to be able to fade the Colorado Rockies right now has been a very, very good bet. I cannot emphasize enough how bad this Rockies team has been, because you would need plus $5 or greater just to be able to break even betting on the Colorado Rockies this far this season. Like plus $5 in order to break even on a Major League Baseball game. You know things are bad when you get down there, and things are actually pretty solid with regards to the LA Dodgers right now, 1-0 in the lead on the Arizona Diamondbacks, who, by the way, the Dodgers entered into the night with 4 straight losses at home. You just don't see that very often, and it always leads into the interesting question when it comes to betting on baseball. Do you back the team that is on a streak, whether that's a hot streak or a cold streak? Do you fade it, or do you go somewhere in the middle? And personally, I'm a believer in the numbers are the numbers. I'm not one of those people that's going to be like, the team has lost 2 games in a row, 3 games in a row, they're due, or anything like that. It's all about momentum being as good as the next day's starting pitcher. Like, I was willing to back the Dodgers on the run line tonight, and I took a shot on the under because I absolutely love Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Thought that there was going to be a little bit of positivity for Mr. Ryan Nelson. So far, so good on that front, as right now your live total is a 4.5 with the Diamondbacks getting out that 5th inning unscathed. So now they're going to be going to the top of the 6th inning. And by the way, I was talking about the totals out there in Sacramento. We just had ourselves 3 runs put up on the board by the LA Angels. So that is now 4-4. You've got a live total of 13.5 out there. And there are just some situations in baseball where it's really hard to be able to back or be able to back like one specific side, one specific total. And right now in Sacramento, I just have a very tough time being able to take any sort of unders whatsoever, because that ball out there in that thin air is flying. And if you've ever taken a look at the PCO, which is where the Sacramento, I think that they're called the River Cats, might be the River Dogs, where they play, it's just absolutely crazy what you've been able to see in terms of that entire league, because you've got places like Albuquerque, Las Vegas, what have you. And when you see a pitcher come up from the PCL, the Pacific Coast League, with a sub-5 ERA, typically they're actually doing a really, really good job. You wouldn't think that some of these guys are like, they're pitching really well because they've got like a 5 ERA, but a lot of these guys oftentimes are, and the PCL will just cause wonky things to happen. Sacramento, one of those ballparks that is very much a bandbox. You wouldn't necessarily know it by the dimensions, but it's got not a lot of foul territory, and the books, in my opinion, still having a little bit of a tough time of catching up as of what we're seeing out there in Sacramento. So that score is 4-4. You've got that in the 5th inning, and then for the Giants, still in control over the Kansas City Royals, 3-1. And what I think has been interesting about the San Francisco Giants, entered in the night number 1 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. And hopefully, if you're betting full games, you've been taking note of how some of these bullpens have just been completely different this year. Like your top bullpens last year in the National League were the Milwaukee Brewers, the American League were the Cleveland Guardians. Both of these teams in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. So these two teams have really been shaky, to say the least. And then some of these other shakier bullpens, like I was noting that with the Kansas City Royals last year, the San Francisco Giants weren't necessarily a trustworthy team towards the back half of the season. These have been teams that have really been able to turn around. You know what hasn't turned around, though? The Baltimore Orioles. They canned their manager on Sunday since they fired their manager with the loss tonight against the Milwaukee Brewers. They are 0-4. We certainly need to touch upon that. We're going to be taking a look to see what we get live in terms of these late games in baseball. We've got 4 games in total going now, with that Chicago game still going on because of the rain delay. So we'll be diving in on that and so much more next, right here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
The hits are harder, the stakes are higher. It's all about playoff hockey at its best. Stay up to date with every matchup with sharp betting analysis from VSiN hockey experts. Check out all of our NHL playoff action on the VSiN Watch app, and you're getting that playoff action right now as it is cashing out with myself, Greg Peterson, right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, and great to be joined by this man on the Progressive Guest Line, Jason Gregor. He does absolutely tremendous work over at 1440 in Edmonton. He hosts our afternoon show over there, and Jason, it's great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me. And first things first, let's take a look at what we're going to be getting in terms of a series that I'm sure is of peak delight out there in Edmonton, the Oilers and the Dallas Stars. That's going to be getting going here in the next 24 hours. Right now, the Oilers very slight underdogs here in game number one. But how do you, for one, take a look at game number one in terms of the series and the overall outlook with the Edmonton Oilers being able to get things taken care of very early on against the Vegas Golden Knights in the previous round?
Yeah, they really dominated Vegas in three of those four games, like limited their chances. They're coming off of back-to-back shutouts. And, Edmonton and Dallas, this is the second straight year they'll meet. Only the 10th time in NHL history that teams have met back-to-back in the conference final. And you know what? It should be a great matchup. So, I think, Edmonton probably has the advantage, top-end offensive guys. Right now, their depth is way better. Dallas has the two best defensemen in the series and has the better goalie entry in the series. However, last year Skinner outplayed Ottinger, so we'll see. It should be a heck of a series, and it really going to come down to which Mikko Rantanen's going to show up. Mikko Rantanen has 17 points in 5 games, and then he has 2 points in the other 8. So which Mikko Rantanen are they going to get?
Yep, absolutely. We all recall the hat trick that he was able to get in the third period against Colorado Avalanche. That was absolutely wild to see. And just how do you take a look at the dynamic for game number one as well? Because I think that that's so intriguing because the Oilers, they have been off for a little bit of time, and the Dallas Stars, they got pushed to a full 6 games against the Jets. They were able to get that close 2-1 win to be able to wrap up that series. But I do think that that's a little bit of an interesting blend of things as well, with the Oilers being off for quite a few days before the series.
Yeah, the last few times breaks haven't benefited Edmonton as far as, they get rest, but they haven't necessarily come out and played well. Now, that's something their coach talked about. The players are well aware of it. So I think that's something that they'd like to shed as far as a reputation goes, that they haven't benefited from a break. And they should, right? You're rested. Dallas didn't have to play that much longer, a few days later than Edmonton, so it's not a huge disadvantage. Edmonton also had to travel, and so game one historically in the McDavid-Draisaitl era, the Oilers used to struggle to score to win even half their games. But last year and this year, they're now 3-3 in game one, so it's better on the road. They did win in Dallas game one last year. That helped catapult them to that series win. And I think, getting off to a good start like they did in Vegas would be key for Edmonton. I just think they've got a lot of confidence rolling in, and if they can continue to play as well defensively as they had, because we know their offense will come, then they got a really good chance to win that series.
Yep, I think that it's also key that the Dallas Stars all throughout the postseason have been dealing with injuries as well. Now, they're much healthier now than they were to start off the Colorado Avalanche series, but I think that it's interesting to take a look on that front as well, because though the Stars have been dealing with a bunch of injuries, that also means that they've been able to gain more and more experience with dealing with these injuries as the postseason has went along.
Yeah, well, Miro Heiskanen came back. He played the last 3 games of the Dallas-Winnipeg series. And in game 6, he was back to playing normal minutes. He was up to 24 minutes a night. He was mobile. He was fluid. He looked great in that game for Dallas. And I'm curious if Dallas is going to go with 7 defensemen, or they'll go with 11 forwards and just double shift Rantanen and a few other guys. So that to me is a big storyline. Now that Heiskanen's playing better, obviously they're going to want him on the ice, 24, 25 minutes. They'll probably want him on the ice as much as they can against McDavid. I'd love to know what the line would be on that and how many minutes McDavid and Heiskanen would play head to head. That would be an interesting one to bet on, because I think if you're Dallas, they're going to try to get Harley and Heiskanen against McDavid as much as they can.
Oh, I'm sure that would be. And just in terms of the dynamic of the series, right now, the Dallas Stars, a very slight favorite in game number one. And just in terms of game number ones, you mentioned it with the Oilers, the fact that they've been a little bit better on the road. What do you think has really been the, shall we say, turnaround for them in the way that they've been able to get into such good, shall we say, starts in terms of these last few postseason series dating all the way back to last year? Because I still recall in the Vegas series, them being able to take both against the Golden Knights, I thought that was so paramount for them.
Well, yeah, you get up 2-0 on the road, and then the only game they lost was when Dallas scored. Edmonton put it into the
scored
net
in the
with
final
0.4 seconds left. So, the second latest playoff game goal in NHL history. Edmonton really, they started the playoffs not very well. They gave up 6 goals in their first 2 games. They were down 2-0 to LA, and a lot of people were like, oh yeah. But since then they're 8-1, and they've really dominated a lot of those games. So, and not giving up a ton of chances. So if that continues, they're a quicker team than Dallas overall. Now, Dallas is a great counter-strike team. They're really good off the rush, and that's something that Edmonton's going to have to be careful of. But, you mentioned Edmonton starts, and their last 2 games, they'll love how they've started. So if they can get off to a good start in Dallas, and the one thing, though, for Edmonton on the road that's got to get going is their power play. They don't have a power play goal, funny enough. The Oilers have had the best power play in the league for 5 years. And, last year was dominant in the playoffs. But this year they beat Vegas, won 3 games in Vegas. Vegas never loses 3 games at home, never mind in one 10-day span. And I look at Edmonton, and if they can get their power play going here, they'll be even much more dangerous than they have been, because going 0 on the road so far in the playoffs is very odd.
Absolutely. As Jason Gregor does great work over at 1440 out there in Edmonton, hosts their afternoon show over there. Joining me on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, and certainly it's going to be fun to see what we get out west. But we saw things get started out east with the Panthers taking it to the Carolina Hurricanes, this by a count of 5-2. And something I've been noting on this show the last few weeks is the fact that the Carolina Hurricanes, just such dramatic home and road splits. But you pointed out to me something off air. This is something where we have seen it before with the Carolina Hurricanes. When they get to this round of the playoffs, for some reason, they just don't perform their best.
No, they have now lost 13 consecutive conference final games. It's mind-blowing. The Penguins swept them 4 straight in 2009. The Bruins swept them 4 straight in 2019. The Panthers swept them 4 straight in 2023. And now they win tonight. And now, obviously, the last 2, though, have been with Rod Brind'Amour. So that's a concern. So now they've lost 9 straight conference final games with Rod Brind'Amour as their head coach. And I look at Carolina, and they're a really good regular season team. They play in a very good structure, but they don't have a game breaker. They don't have a dynamite offensive player. They tried to get one. They acquired Rantanen, and then he didn't want to stay there, so they traded him rather than lose him for nothing at in the summertime. And I get that theory, but here they are in the playoffs again, and when push comes to shove, they don't seem to have a guy who can be a difference maker. And you know what? If they lose game 2 at home, it's good night, Irene. They're not winning 4 out of 5 against the defending champ Florida Panthers. So I would argue, as early as it is, I would say game 2 for Carolina is a must-win game.
Yep, I'm in agreement with you, because they've had their struggles on the road as well. And for Florida, it's the exact opposite. This is a dream start for them. They looked very strong here in game number 1. And just how do you take a look at a Panthers team that over the last few years, they really have been the gold standard, in my opinion, in all of hockey?
Well, yeah, Florida is really good. Them and Edmonton could have a Stanley Cup rematch, which would be fantastic.
That'd be great.
And, Edmonton's right there. They went to game 7 with them last year, and they're both in the conference final again. And, the Panthers have been there 3 straight years. Edmonton's been there 3 out of 4. Dallas has been there 3 straight years. So you got a lot of good teams in the mix. Florida just has a wonderful combination of good goaltending, sound defense. They're big, they're physical. All their lines contribute. Paul Maurice put some physical players on his 4th line. Gadjevich, the other guys like that, who other teams are like, oh, this guy can't play. But magically he can play in Florida, because they love to play aggressive, in-your-face hockey. They have an identity. Everybody knows what their identity is. They'll cheap shot you. They'll be very physical, and they can skill with you. So, yeah, they're going to be a hard out for any team, no question.
Absolutely. It's been tremendous what we've seen out of Florida the last few years. They were incredible in game number 1. And Jason, you're doing an incredible job out there in Edmonton, taking a look at all the happenings out there. And I know that you're going to have your finger on the pulse of what we're going to be seeing the rest of the NHL playoffs. And really appreciate the time today. Thank you.
Hey, no problem, man. Enjoy the playoffs.
Absolutely. Jason, he does such a tremendous job being able to take a look at this great game of hockey. He's based out there in Edmonton, and that is going to be a fun series. And what else is fun is knowing that Smarter Bets, they are here, and they are here all year long with VSiN Pro. And right now, because typically with our VSiN Pro subscription, we charge $20 a month, we're going to knock that down for you a little bit. We're going to bring that down to $199, so that's a $41 savings. And instead of 12 months, you're getting 14 months. So you're saving $41. You're getting an extra 2 months on the house as well. That'll get you a VSiN Pro subscription for less than 50 cents a day for 14 months. And when you become a VSiN Pro subscriber, you get a daily best bet emails with all of the plays from our VSiN shows and guests, real-time betting splits from DraftKings and Circa, 24/7 video access on the VSiN Watch app, plus full access to VSiN.com's analytics, betting trends, breakdowns, and so much more. You want to go to VSiN.com/subscribe, type in the promo code of PRO, P-R-O, to be able to take advantage of this offer. That's over at VSIN.com/subscribe, promo code PRO. And coming up next, how about if we dive in on the great slate that we've got on this Baseball Wednesday? All 30 teams are in action, and we'll start breaking it down next right here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Out here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We're back here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Great to be able to get Jason Gregor aboard on the last segment. He does great work hosting over at 1440 out there in Edmonton. And now we have to alert you that we are on no-hitter alert out in Los Angeles. Right now, Yoshinobu Yamamoto is hurling a no-hitter. He has walked one, so you're not going to be able to get any sort of perfect game. And as I said that, the no-hitter is broken up. So he made it into the sixth inning, and Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, he's able to get himself a single. So that splits up the no-hitter just as I put it on no-hitter alert. So good job, Greg, for jinxing that one, even though jinxes, as we know, they do not exist. But you know what? That one goes into the U.S., but 1-0. The LA Dodgers, they're in the lead going into the seventh inning. So we'll keep our eyes on that. And then I personally am sweating out and over myself in Sacramento right now with the A's and the Angels doing battle. Top of the sixth inning, and this has turned into a little bit of a nice home run derby here, as we've seen a pair of bombs for the LA Angels along with the A's. As for the Angels, Yoan Moncada, fourth home run of the season. Logan Hoppy, his 11th. And then Shea Langolier as well. Shea Bangs, his 9th home run of the season. And Nick Kurtz, his 2nd. So you've already seen 4 bombs out there in Sacramento. We're in the 6th inning there. So we got some fireworks out there. And we'll see if we get some fireworks on Wednesday as well. As we got all 30 teams in action. Have to get you guys some breakdowns. And this is a game that I did write up for the VSiN website as well. So very fitting there. We're going to start with this one. This is 967, 968 on the card. You got the Walker Texas Rangers on the road against the New York Yankees, with Ryan Yarbrough going for the Yankees. Old Jacob deGrom is on the bump for the Rangers, and you don't see this very often. Jacob deGrom, an underdog in a start where he's facing off against Ryan Yarbrough. Ryan Yarbrough and the Yankees, -110 to -118 favorites. You're getting right around even money to -105 or so on the Rangers, and a total of 7.5. And I'm getting pretty much even money with Jacob deGrom against Ryan Yarbrough is something that I just can't pass up. And I recognize that this is a Rangers offense that has been, for lack of a better term, deplorable. Right now, they're in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of runs per game. They're really unable to hit Will Warren here on Tuesday, and it's just inexplicable what's happened with this Rangers team. I recognize that they aren't necessarily the offense that we saw when they won the World Series in 2023, but Wyatt Langford has given you 9 home runs. He's moved the line relatively well at a 333, but you've had a lot of guys just go straight down the toilet bowl. Like you were thinking when they signed Jake Berger and Jock Peterson that these guys were going to be rock solid. Both of these guys, a sub 255 on base, really not giving you any power whatsoever. And In the case of Jock Peterson, had that north of 0 for 40 slump, currently hitting a $127. You've got Marcus Semien, who's been about as useful as a poopy flavored lollipop. He's been able to give you a $175 this year. I will say the Joshes have been good for the team. Josh Young, along Josh Smith, they're hitting about a 285, but you really don't have a lot of power with this team. And Adolis Garcia is a big reason why even dating back to this time last year, Adolis Garcia, after he had that magnificent 2023, he just has not been himself ever since then as well. 6 home runs and a 271 on base. You just need a little bit more out of him as well. Now, for as bad as they have been, the pitching staff and the overall starting rotation for the Rangers has actually been pretty good this season. And for Jacob deGrom, he comes in relatively good form. 5 runs allowed over the course of his last 5 starts. He had a little bit of shakiness towards the beginning part of the season where in those first few starts he was giving up some bombs. He's been able to really lock in here. He's not really giving up a lot of walks as well. As a matter of fact, he's right around about 1.3, 1.4 walks per 9 innings. So that's something that you want to see. And for Ryan Yarbrough, he's actually been able to put up some relatively okay numbers thus far this season if you're looking at the raw ERA and everything like that. But when you dig down a little bit deeper, you'll realize that for one, this guy's a little bit of a soft tosser, and for two, that 3.70 ERA does not appear to be very sustainable. 1.5 home runs allowed per 9 innings, 3.7 walks allowed per 9 innings, really not getting a lot of swings and miss. And for the Yankees, this is an okay bullpen overall because, if you look at the bullpen, it's been Devin Williams who's really been letting the team down, and I would say that you should expect a little bit more moving forward out of he and Hamilton, but last few seasons he's been very up and down. But likes of Luke Weaver and company coming in out of the bullpen, they've been able to do a rock solid job. I like what Fernando Cruz has brought to the table, and for the Texas Rangers, it's been a little bit up and down in terms of this bullpen as well. I've liked what I've seen of the likes of Robert Garcia and company, though Chris Martin, he's been a little bit less than tremendous for this bunch, so it does lead to a little bit of an interesting circumstance. I do think that deGrom is going to give up a few runs here to a Yankees lineup where we saw Aaron Judge go deep once again. Actually, a guy that used to go to high school with Caleb Bouchley, a year younger than myself. Old Hortonville High School gave up that home run, so shout out there. Hortonville on the board for giving up a home run, but that said, with Aaron Judge, just been absolutely tremendous for him. Trent Grisham has been able to give you a home run every about 10 to 11 at-bats this season. You've had Ben Rice be able to do a nice job moving the line, and Cody Bellinger was really cool to start the season. He's been able to pick things up. You still could use a little bit more of the likes of Austin Wells, Anthony Volpe, and company, but Yankees certainly rounding into form with regards to that offense, and I do think that against Ryan Yarbrough, you're going to see the Rangers be able to get a little bit more something going here, so 7.5, very low total for Yankee Stadium. I'm going to be looking at the over, and I do like being able to get the Rangers on the money line here. Personally, I would have made them more like a minus 130, so good value here on the Rangers, and going to be looking at the over. Something else that we're looking at, how about good value? Over here at Circa, they're running an incredible deal. It's their all-in summer package. You're able to get 2 nights for $400, but you're not just getting that 2-night stay. Oh no, you're also getting a $100 dining credit. You're getting a $100 beverage credit, and your very own day bed over at Stadium Swim. That pretty much pays for itself right there. It's all for $400. That includes the resort fees and taxes because, trust me, out here in lovely Las Vegas, they like to gouge you on those. This is a limited time special. You're able to cash this in between May 26th and September 4th, so that runs all summer long. Don't miss out on your all-in summer package now at circalasvegas.com, as it is myself, Greg Peterson, holding it down right here on Cashing Out on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. And how about if we take a look at this game where I look at this total of 9 and it just feels too high to me. This is 963, 964 on the card. I was mentioning that Hunter Brown is right now in the very much the thick of the AL Cy Young race, obviously very early in the season, but he's going to be going on the mound. He's going up against the Tampa Bay Rays, who throws out their Taj, don't call him Milton Bradley. And right now for the Astros, could be getting them in the neighborhood about a minus 128, minus 135. That number is right around about plus 115, plus 120 with the Rays. Total on this game of 9. And I set my total at 7.9. For one, this is a Houston Astros lineup that is just not itself. They're currently missing Yordan Alvarez, who, even when he was out there this year, he wasn't necessarily giving you a lot, but Jose Altuve at this point looks washed. Maybe I'm declaring him left for dead a little bit early, but he just does not look like himself. Yanier Diaz has not been able to give you too much. I like the pickup of Isaac Paredes. Isaac Paredes has been relatively solid, but for this Astros team, they're not drawing a lot of walks. They're really not giving you a whole heck of a lot of power in general, so that's been a bit of an issue. You lose Alex Bregman in the offseason, so he's been really able to make this team pay with the way that he's been playing at Boston this season. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, really not a lot to write home about with this offense either. You've been able to get a few guys that will be able to move the line for you, as I like what Jonathan Miranda is able to provide. North of 375 on base, 6+ home runs. You've had relatively good pop out of Yandy Diaz recently, but he's not necessarily a guy that's going to be able to reach base very often. And Cameron Misner, after a relatively good start to the season, he's been a little bit shaky. Brandon Lau, he's just not necessarily been great for the Tampa Bay Rays over the last few seasons, and Taj Bradley has not been great either. 4.80 ERA, 4.70 fielding dependent, down all the way to about 7 to 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. After his first 2 seasons at the big league level, he was getting 10 plus strikeouts per 9 innings. So that's been a big fall for him, but what else you can feel good about with regards to the soft under is the fact that you've got 2 bullpens that are 2 of the better ones in all of baseball. For the Houston Astros, it's the Bryans, Brian King, Brian Abreu. Both of these guys give you a sub-3 ERA. Steven Okert has been able to do a relatively good job in that bullpen as well. And Josh Hader has looking like the old Josh Hader again as well. So that's been able to help them out. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, you're able to just mix and match with this bullpen. You know that Hunter Biggie, Eric Orze, Manuel Rodriguez, Garrett Clevenger, Pete Fairbanks, all these guys are going to be able to give you some relatively solid innings. I do think that the Astros are able to get to Taj Bradley in this one, but I do think that the bullpen going to be able to hold it down from there. So I set my total more around a 7.9. Like, I thought that this total should have came out closer to an 8 with us being able to get a 9. I do like that total under. And then with regards to Houston Astros, I set them more of a minus 140 on the money line as a favorite. So I'm going to be taking a look at the Astros in this ordeal, and I'm going to be taking a look at that total under as well. And then if you're taking a look at some of the late night action that we've got in baseball for this Tuesday, we had a few games just wrap up with the Philadelphia Phillies. This should come as no shocker. They won by multiple runs against the Colorado Rockies. It's by kind of 7-4 again. The Colorado Rockies, 35 of their 40 losses this year have come by multiple runs. I'm going to need to do the math how many have been by 3+ runs, because now you're getting minus 2.5 run lines with them. It's just absolutely crazy what we're seeing on that front end. What else has been absolutely crazy is what we've seen out there in Los Angeles. Though Yoshinobu Yamamoto had his no-hitter, which I said at the beginning part of the segment, and within 10 seconds of me saying it, he gave up the no-hitter, but even though that got broken up, was able to keep things scoreless, 1-0, going to the bottom of the 7th inning for the LA Dodgers there. And if you're taking a look at the Dodgers game that we are going to be getting on this day on Wednesday as well, we're going to dive in on this a little bit later on, but right now they're about a minus 130 favorite against the Arizona Diamondbacks, with it being Corbin Burns against Dustin May. That total is 9, and for the LA Dodgers, if they could get this down to more like a minus 125, minus 128, I will be willing to nibble here for Dustin May. The swing and miss stuff that has been lacking from over the last few seasons seems to be coming back, and then without question, this is going to be a Dodgers bullpen that's very well rested. You've got right now a really good performance going on there for Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and for the Arizona Diamondbacks, been a little bit suspect with that bullpen. And even though Corbin Burns has that sub-3 ERA, he just does not look like himself this far this season. So we'll dive in on that game a little bit more. Additionally, we'll be diving in on everything that we got on this Baseball Wednesday, and that comes up next right here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.